Welcome to the Bedrock Engineers Podcast, bringing you robot combat discussions for people who don't know what they're talking about.
It's carnage here in the Battlebots! Oh! Huge hit there! Now he's a fire-breathing dragon! Hey! Hold on! Woo! I feel like I'm in a scene from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre! Getting, we're gonna need a bot medic!
Here are your hosts, Ben and Scott.
So I put my my can on my phone so it doesn't keep making noises, man.
Oh yeah?
So you might want a piece of paper. Here, let's do this.
Oh, no, I got a coaster.
That's what I was going to give you.
Yeah. Alright.
Because otherwise on this table it makes noise.
Alright, let's crack open these cold ones at the same time, okay? I'll count down from three. It's right next to the mic. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Oh, big nut. Oh, wait, don't drink it yet. A toast to Battlebots. May we continue to get great episodes. Cheers. That did not make any kind of a noise at all, but... That is good stuff. We're part of the only... the group of probably 6 people in the world that actually likes Budweiser, unironically, you know?
No, I don't know about that, man. There's more lovers of Bud than you realize.
What you looking for?
I was going to get 2 glasses and clank them together. And
I considered doing that, and then I was like, nah, he's just going to want to drink it from the can. Like, I was actually going to have us pour the beer into the cups.
This is delicious.
So, I got a funny story, actually. I have here with me this jug of milk, right? This empty jug of milk that says it expires July 10th, right? Mm-hmm. So, we were supposed to record this yesterday, July 8th, and today's July 9th, but... a little while after, so that fell through, but I decided to pour myself a glass of milk on July 8th. And so, it should be good for 2 more days. When I poured it out, what came out was not entirely liquid. There were several large golf ball sized chunks of curdled milk, and it was disgusting, and I had to throw it out. And it still should be good for an entire day right at this moment in time, but it is not. So who made this? HEB fat-free milk. Y'all have been misleading me, man. You need to print these labels more accurately. So speaking of drinks, do you remember a thing from the 80s called New Coke, where Coke tried to change its formula, and they had to change it back within 70 days because there was such a big outcry? Well, they're actually bringing that back for a limited time because of Stranger Things Season 3, which happens around the time they did that. So for publicity, they're actually making some New Coke again. And I want to try it. I want to see what this thing was, this monstrosity that made everybody...
As I remember it was similar to Pepsi. It was a little, people like Coke, especially drinkers. You don't mix Pepsi with alcohol. I'm sure somebody does, but nobody I know.
I mean, I've tried drinking Diet Coke and beer, all sorts of different types of beer before at the same time, and it just doesn't work. But it's funny you should say that it tastes like Pepsi because they made it because of Pepsi. Because Pepsi tastes sweeter on the first sip, so during sip tests, more people preferred Pepsi than Coke. And so Coke said, well, we need to fix that, so they tinkered with their formula and kept doing sip tests until almost everyone preferred the Coke during the sip test. And so they said, okay, let's make that, because it's clearly better. Turns out that's not how human psychology works, and everybody hated it to death. Yeah. See, slavery still exists in the world, but this was the cause that united everyone in the world in a public outcry so large that it created a massive change within corporate America within 70 days. See, if we can actually do that, but for important shit, that'd be good. But clearly not. Humans are just stupid. Okay, so Battlebots. We've got some stuff to talk about before we begin the episode. They are building a new floor for Season 5.
Well, they need to.
A stronger floor, and there's some quite wonderful videos with funny music of them testing the floor by dropping a large steel structure from 10 to 15 feet with triangles on the bottom to make some spikes. Floor is unscratched.
So is Season 5 already a guarantee? No. Actually, we should really call it 2020, but anyway.
2020. But we don't know if it's going to happen.
I know.
Yeah.
True that,
yeah. What? Yeah. What actually? I've been wondering this. What happens if there's 2 seasons in a year? However unlikely that is. If they make 2 seasons in 1 year,
It might be a good reason you're calling it season 4 and season 5. Stuff like that. Season 3.
I would have to go through all of our videos and rename from 2019 to season 4.
I just went off first off the website, and their fight record, and it was 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm. So about the floor, then, it only fucked up once in this episode, and the robot that got affected by it didn't even lose. So it really had no part in it, which statistically means that this is the best episode so far.
Well, okay.
Then again, the first episode didn't really have any floor.
That's why we base our statistics on.
The first episode didn't really have any floor shenanigans.
The floor affects everybody, man. So
I think it should be smooth, even if it's not flat.
It
can have varying levels of terrain.
That'd
and
be nice. That'd be nice.
But it should be smooth, so there's no corners or seams to catch. That one that Whiplash hit literally looked like it was over an inch above the other panel.
It just goes to show you, though, that robots are really not going to be able to, I don't think, do well in society in the world.
Well, these are robots, though.
If we ever, I know they're not, but if we ever have to fight the robots, I'm just throwing mud on them. That'll be it. They'll be confused.
Just make them walk over slightly uneven terrain.
Throw some mud on them. Like, even the most advanced robots right now, they say they get stumped when the wind blows the door closed. They walk up, they open the door. They're very good at picking themselves up and stuff like that. But when they open the door and then the wind blows it closed, for some reason, they're stumped. They can't figure it out.
Because they just opened the door.
Exactly.
They don't know why it's shut again. They think it's still open.
So,
but
don't worry about the robots taking over.
Yeah, no.
We will kick the robots' asses.
Yeah, we will. Just like a number of robots got their asses kicked in this episode. This floor is so rough and broken up. These robots are basically off-roading.
Well, yeah, but
this ain't driving on a smooth pavement. This is driving on a bunch of fallen tree logs covered in mud with a forest fire raging around
it's
you.
It's a flat floor with a couple of burrs on it.
Yeah, but when I exaggerate it to the extent I was, it's funnier. And it makes it seem like it's a bigger issue than it was. So, the Desperado tournament is coming up.
So, let me ask you, they keep saying, are they going to go the Desperado route? Do people have a choice to go to the Desperado?
They can enter, yes.
Okay.
And if Battlebots thinks that you, I don't actually know the criteria. I'm guessing it's if they think you reasonably deserve a chance to get into the top 16 by winning several fights that are very tough. You have a very limited amount of time. I think you're only guaranteed 2 hours per each fight, or between each fight, rather, to fix your machine, which means there's going to be a lot of lasting damage.
Yeah.
So it is, even though you're probably going to be fighting less tough opponents than you would be in your normal series, especially if you yourself are a big name, the accumulating damage still makes this a very tough challenge for you.
No doubt. So let me ask you, how many people, there's 16 teams in the final 16. How many are selected by Battlebots, and how many get in via the Desperado tournament?
The one gets in via the Desperado tournament.
Okay, so they pick 15, and then one more can earn its way in, can fight its way in.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm guessing, I don't know this for certain because I've heard literally no information about it, I'm guessing that the 15th and 16th seeds are still going to be decided by 2 different last chance rumbles, just like last year.
Okay. Okay. So maybe they're picking 14, and then 15 gets in through a last chance rumble, and 16 gets in through the Desperado tournament?
Well, there's actually 3 that'll be picked without a selection committee. So there'll be 13 that are selected for... This is just how it worked last season.
Okay.
13 that are picked, and then 1 that gets into the Desperado tournament. I think the seed of that one still depends on how well it did. But by some funny coincidence, Lockjaw, which won the Desperado last year, happened to be 8th, which is exactly in the middle. So
it's possible.
Maybe it is. Maybe you do just get placed automatically in the 8th slot. But anyway, I digress. The being in the Desperado tournament, regardless of how many times you actually fight in it, it counts as 1 fight in your 4-fight list, basically.
And after how many fights, when do they decide to go into the Desperado tournament? For instance, would they maybe forego their 4th fight to go into the Desperado tournament?
Well, the Desperado tournament is held in mid-season, so people are thinking it's going to be episode 8, so a few weeks from now, and there will be a brief, not so brief probably, hiatus after that episode where there are no Battlebots episodes until later, and I'm not hearing anything from I haven't heard anything official from Discovery or from Battlebots' Facebook page, but people are saying 8 weeks.
Layoff?
8 weeks of no
wow.
Battlebots. That is really, really harsh.
Yeah, it is.
So
I was wondering if they were going to try to compete with the start of football season, for instance, which is still a good 7-8 weeks away, maybe 9 for the NFL.
Yeah.
So
with that said, with such a long break, what on earth is going to happen to this podcast during that time?
We might take a break.
I would like to take a break, but I would like to do at least one episode.
That's fine.
Maybe it won't have anything to do with Battlebots in particular. Probably just some other type of robot combat thing. Maybe we could just talk about machines specifically, our favorite or least favorite, and or the types of stuff we'd like to see more of. Some rules we think should be changed. All that stuff we can pick and choose, or maybe people can suggest stuff.
Okay.
All right. What else? There was.
Well, I would like to say one thing. Sometimes me, and you as well, but more me, say things like, oh, these guys suck, this robot sucks, different things like that, critical things, And I just want to kind of point out that, that's just how casual viewers and fans are about things, If people, watch all kinds of sports, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and we routinely say some quarterback sucks or some player sucks. The truth of the matter is, and I've said this before, they're the best in the world. But anytime you compare yourself against the best person or best team or best machine, it's easy for people to say, oh, they suck. The Cowboys suck at times. I love the Cowboys, by the way. But, other teams. And it's unfair and it's unfortunate. It's really not right, but it's just how life is, man. For one, I would say if you don't want to be called, if you don't want people to say you suck, get better. Life's harsh. This is a competition. The truth is these guys, these roboteers, are some of the best in the world. And I recognize that. And they build machines that I could never build. They're smarter than I am. They're doing it and we're not. We're just talking about it. So I'm really very appreciative and amazed at their talents and all of that. However, the way life works is if you don't perform, people say you suck. If you have a bad day, people talk shit about it. And so I'm not trying to be cruel or mean or anything like that. It's just kind of how life is, man. So if I've offended anybody out there that thinks every one of these robots is awesome, I'm sorry about that. That's just kind of how it is, man. Anyway, that's really all I had to say about that.
I know I kind of tease you sometimes about the fact that you don't like robots. Frog suit, but of course, that's all in the name of fun. But there are going to be machines out there that are kind of just objectively bad.
Sure.
Even if they are very well built. I really can't think of a single machine in the entire competition that is poorly built. They've all got top-notch build quality.
I would agree with that, yes.
But there are just objectively terrible machines. No matter how cool they are, they just don't seem to work.
True. And, we've talked about different designs like the hammer bots and stuff. And I can't wait to talk about one of those. But, the truth is this show can't just be all, as I think it was Zach said, all vertical spinners. We don't want that. So even though, it does appear certain designs are probably stronger than other designs, it is nice that the show has all of these different types of robots in it. And it does add variety, and it does, it is at the end of the day an entertainment, show. And people have to enjoy it to watch it. So, it's good that they did that. But, we're still going to be at times critical of some of those things.
Yeah. And, of course, I think every episode is going to have some of that.
Of course.
Some robot or some machine that appears that is a cut below the rest and kind of just doesn't seem like it can go very far at all because its hammer goes 12 miles an hour. Or it looks like a Buzz Lightyear thing. Yeah. Or it's made of plastic. Well, we'll get to that. Those can all three be said about the same machine in here. But one more. You got anything more to say on that subject?
No, I don't. I just want to kind of get that off my chest.
There's one more thing I wanted to talk about, and it's the sound effects that are added in during the episode. The first time I really noticed it this season was during Copperhead versus Scorpios' fight, and I wanted to mention this to the guys, but I didn't get the chance. There was the sound of their drum hitting Scorpios' metal forks. Instead of being whatever sound it was, they replaced it with this shitty buzz sound. It literally sounded like bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. And they used the same sound effect during Tombstone versus Sawblaze when Tombstone got up on its side and was hitting the floor. Every time that bar touched the ground, it went bzz, 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 bzz.
I don't like that.
Yeah. The reason they don't do that, and I watched the Remars live event, so that was all happening live, and as many jokes as we all made about how the sound was wonky during that event, it was just the levels that were wonky. The actual sounds of the machines hitting each other, especially from Lockjaw and Witch Doctor, were amazing. They were so much more satisfying and solid sounding.
Were they imitation?
Were they what?
Were they imitation, like made-up sounds?
No, because it was happening live. There couldn't have been any editing going on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were hearing the actual sounds for the first time.
Okay.
And it sounded amazing. And it didn't really sound very echoey, which is apparently the explanation for why they added in these sound effects later. But for me, it sounds like shit.
Well, it seems to me like, first, this is a professional production. They should be able to mic up that arena such that it sounds good and we can take those sounds. I would be fine if they took those sounds, the actual sounds that were being made, and amplified them or even cleaned them up or something.
Cleaned them up.
But don't just change it and create some new sound. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, me neither.
And it seems like they ought to have the skill and the ability to mic these up and so that we can hear them better.
Yeah, they're like, I think the worst example I've ever heard was, the places where it's obvious, even if it seems like the sound effect fits, you can hear the same sound being used across fights, so you know it's just being added in. But I think the worst example is when they use stock sound effects, or even film sound effects sometimes. Last season, in Ice Wave versus Scorpios, there's a moment where Scorpios pushes Ice Wave up and against the screws, and the sound that it plays is a classic film sound effect that's usually used for a car flipping over. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding you. Yeah, seriously.
They shouldn't do that.
Go watch that fight, everyone. First of all, because it's a great fight. Secondly, because you will laugh your head off when you realize the part where I'm talking about. You will hear that and you will weep.
You know, I'm normally in tune to those sounds, but they haven't bothered me, I'll have to admit. I may be keeping the volume down on my TV. Anyway.
Maybe.
Are you listening to them through headphones when you watch it?
Nah. I don't plug in my big headset to my computer when I watch them on Discovery Go. But yeah, I guess that's all the things I have to talk about before we move on to the episode, which, like I said earlier, is the best one so far. Not just because it only had one floor shenanigan, but because it just was the best episode.
It was
so
good.
far.
It was good.
It was really damn good.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think even the one-sided fights were a great spectacle where a machine just got to show off. Its abilities. I thought the pit sections focused a little too much on Whiplash, and also Sawblaze wasn't in it, so that brought it down a lot.
They did focus on one team more than I thought they would have as well. They put some time in there, but
it's the rookie team, air quotes rookie.
Yeah.
I know these guys are experienced rookies, but it's also just young guys who had a coming out story last season and made joint third place. Of course, they're gonna be focused on more, but I would have liked to see a little bit of Son of Waiachi, you know?
Of course. I think fans and people that watch the show really like those episodes, the segments where they talk to the teams and stuff. And so instead of doing a bunch of little ones, I think they're just doing longer individual ones.
Yeah. It's still in line with what I was expecting, you know? The first episode kind of felt off to me in that regard, but then the second episode, I was like, okay, the fights in this episode were all just, let's all break down and catch fire, but the pit sections were great, and they've been great since. And, just great episode. Third really good one in a row. So I think we're on a roll here. If they can keep this up, this will just be getting better and better until, down the line, we just have great stuff consistently.
That would be great.
So a thing I noticed in this episode, and a lot of people noticed as well, so I'm not claiming originality here, there are actually, if you include the Science Channel bonus, which has Axe Backwards in it, there are not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 full-body spinners in this episode.
Oh, really?
Almost every one in the competition. I can't think of any that weren't in here besides Kronos. But just for the record, Son of Waiachi and Bloodsport are full-body spinners. Fight me in real life. All right. 5 full-body spinners of varying types, I should clarify. 2 shell spinners, Captain Shredderator and Gigabyte. The overhead bar spinner, Bloodsport, and then I guess Sunwatch is kind of also an overhead bar spinner. And then Axe Backwards is, as far as I know, the only full-body drum that exists. So, cool. I like full-body spinners, as long as they work, which one of them did.
Now, let's see. When did the Axe Backwards fight?
It's just in the Science Channel bonus.
Oh, okay.
So we won't see that till 2 Wednesdays from now because they're being delayed by a week. And I guess they'll catch up during that just horrific 8-week hiatus.
So there wasn't a Science Channel bonus fight this week coming up, or last week, rather?
Last week. Tomorrow, the bonus from episode 4 is going to air, which is Foxtrot versus Death Roll, which...
Do they explain why they're doing that?
No, I have no idea. No clue whatsoever. Our first fight was Black Dragon versus Bloodsport.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I was expecting this to be shorty, but I got basically what I was thinking I would get. That self-riding pole is apparently from Gigabyte, and the fact that it broke without even getting directly hit is not a good sign for Bloodsport or Gigabyte.
First off, did it break or did it just fall off? It looked like it. I didn't think it broke. I thought it just slid right out of like it. It wasn't even attached, wasn't even bolted down.
No, mate. At the bend part, it sheared. You could see jagged edges.
In the middle, but it did it in the middle of the air, flipping.
Yeah, it did. It didn't even get directly hit. Just the torque of it getting flipped over.
I can't see how that's... Did they give them a broken piece already or something?
I mean...
That doesn't seem to make sense. That steel breaks just when...
Oh, yeah, it's very thin steel. If it is steel, I don't know.
It doesn't look good. If that's... I just thought it just flew out of its little holder or something.
No, man, it properly sheared. It properly broke in half.
That's sad, man.
Just
that's not good.
I hope it was a broken part, because if that was what it was supposed to be like, oh man, not good for Bloodsport or Gigabyte.
No, definitely not.
Black Dragon.
Something tells me Gigabytes isn't going to break like that. I mean,
are you accusing?
Well, I don't know,
Gigabyte?
man. I just can't believe that you have a piece of steel that's going to just break flying through the air, man.
And we don't know that it's steel.
No, we don't.
Also, steel is quite rigid. It is.
I know steel is rigid.
Even though it's very strong, it is quite brittle as well.
It shouldn't have broken, man.
Shouldn't have broken. I agree. No matter what it's made of, if you have a thing that, like, not even breaks when you're trying to self-ride, just breaks from you getting flipped before you even hit the ground.
I mean, Black Dragon did get a couple of big hits on him, man.
A couple of big hits. Oh yeah. That egg beater seems to it seems to hit very hard and throw very very harshly without doing a lot of external damage, either because Bloodsport is very thickly armored and very tough, or because the width of that egg beater distributes the force in a very wide area and doesn't apply much pressure. But regardless, it hits very hard.
Yeah, it did.
And the fact that it doesn't do a lot of external damage does not diminish that whatsoever.
Well, it got some big hits, man. So Black Dragon came in 0-1, and Bloodsport came in 1-0, and they both left 1-1.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Interesting how that works. Bloodsport's weapon still seems to be unreliable, to say the least. It wasn't spinning for most of the fight.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And Black Dragon, I think, is a potential dark horse, actually, for the series. Maybe not for the series, not for the title.
Certainly, I mean, I think they'll make it into the top 16.
They will definitely make it into the top 16. I'm not thinking they need to enter the Desperado for that either, because they can keep.
Of course, right now it's 2 fights down. I mean, do we have anybody that's fought 3 times yet? I don't think we do.
No.
Yeah.
We've had lots of 2-fight bots, but
right. I mean, you really have to see how that third fight goes for everybody.
Too early to call.
Yeah, it is.
Their flamethrower wasn't very showy in this fight either. They used it for like a grand total of 1 second, and then they just turned it off. I really wanted them to just get underneath Bloodsport and just roast them with the flamethrower for a while, but what we got was even better. A smash that almost put them out of the arena, and in fact did, but they happened to roll in just the right way to land back on the floor.
Yeah, they did.
I'm trying to remember if there's any other vertical spinner out of the arenas. I can think of 2. There was, and both of them involved Bite Force. There was one where Bite Force straight up put Bombshell out of the arena with just this equally amazing hit that tore a dollar bill width chunk out of Bombshell's wedge. And then another one where it was a joint hit between Bite Force and this big old spinner called Rex, which put Witch Doctor out of the arena. And those are all the ones I can think of. So, quick fight, one and done, but hey, it was cool.
Yeah, KO'd him, man.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And
in fact, I'd say they kicked their ass.
Bloodsport got its ass kicked.
Yes, Bloodsport did get its ass kicked.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty one-sided. Not much else to say.
I would agree.
Yeah. So, our next fight was Captain Shredderator versus Witch Doctor. And can I say, poor Cap. Poor Captain Shredderator.
Yeah.
Maybe if this episode had aired on July 4th, they would have won.
They didn't really do that well, man.
I mean, this was essentially just a free win for Witch Doctor, wasn't it?
It was.
I mean, Captain Shredderator, I'm sure...
Witch Doctor was all over him, though.
Yeah.
Witch Doctor was on him, man.
Yeah. I would like to...
Gave him some big hits.
I would like to remind everybody that after the filming of the season was over, Witch Doctor went on to beat Tombstone by knockout and in the Remar's live event. And just because of that, based on solely that... I pretty much give them the automatic edge against any horizontal spinner, especially Captain Shredderator, which just has an awful record of, just not mechanical failures. Sorry, I read you guys' AMA. Y'all have never had a mechanical failure. It's all just been freak electronic.
Well, I believe that. I definitely believe that their failures have been electronics.
Undoubtedly an extremely well-built machine. It's just, and even other builders were getting on there and being like, yeah, actually... Not only have you only had electric failures, but your electric failures have been the kinds that no one's ever seen before and should realistically never happen. It's crazy how bad their luck is. But at least they did get outright beat this time instead of losing to themselves.
Well, they did get outright beat, and I almost think that's better. I mean, losing to yourself just is horrible.
I mean, they must have just been absolutely kicking themselves after their fight against Wanhu.
I know.
They did actually.
I know. They tore him up and then just died.
Yeah. I mean, Captain Shredderator, even without any failures, realistically, is it that good of a machine?
Well, didn't you say they were brought in at the last moment?
Well,
I was very critical of them for not having spare parts.
No, just in general. I mean, it would be sad. It would be wrong to say at this point that Shredderator's reliability is their only issue. I mean, they can't self-right. They have no way to.
Can't.
No,
they clearly cannot.
Their teeth fall off constantly, and like I said though, I read the AMA. That's supposed to happen apparently. They don't seem to hit particularly hard. I don't really know.
I thought they hit Wanhu hard, but they definitely didn't hit Witch Doctor hard.
They did more like they really all they did was just leave scratches, like long gouges in Wanhu's body, rather than actually tearing any panels off. And then in their other fights as well, they don't seem to get the engagement necessary, and they don't seem to have the energy necessary to really get big hits like other horizontals, which occasionally just get this like mind-blowingly large hit. And Witch Doctor, on the other hand, is just is like that wedge on their front is really, really good. Like I said, they beat Tombstone, so clearly whatever issues they had over the course of the series were dialed in by that point.
Yeah,
but they're also really fast, really well driven, and they just hit obscenely hard.
They did.
They got a double disc, almost drum-like thing that people generally call a drisc because it's two discs on a very thick axle, and it spins at the max speed, 250 miles an hour. Big kilojoule energies. That was not a proper sentence, but regardless, hard hits.
Well, big hits, man.
Hard hits.
Big hits. That's what I got. KO'd them. They left. Witch Doctor left 2-0, man. 2-0. They're
a convincing win,
yes,
though,
so.
not against a very historically tough opponent.
No, it wasn't.
Captain Shredderator did actually have one small electrical failure before the fight even started, and it's that their lights on the machine that tell them which direction it's facing were not turned on.
Well, I wondered about how can they ever tell which direction to go?
So yeah, they usually have a strip of LEDs on the front and the back of the machine. One of them is blue, one of them is yellow. And they can use that to determine, because they can see through the top panel to see which direction they were. And during the Twitch test, I forget who it was, leans over to the other guy and says, the lights are off. And yeah, the lights were off, so they couldn't tell what direction they were facing.
No, they couldn't, because a couple times they drove right into the wall.
Yeah, they did.
You know?
I'll tell you what, if I were them, and of course I'm not saying they did this badly, because I'm sure they know what they're doing, but like, I would be doing everything extremely carefully with that. I'd be like nudging the machine around and being like, okay, that's forward. Now I can quickly turn and hit them or whatever. But not everything goes according to plan in Robot Combat, and for Captain Shredderator, it usually doesn't go according to plan. I think this is their 8th straight loss.
Wow.
Actually.
They're 0-2 this season.
At least in a actual competition fight, because they did beat Vanquish during an exhibition match last season during the USA versus the World episode, which took a break from the main competition. Is there anything more to really say about either Machine or the fight?
I don't have anything else to say.
I'm still not convinced that they actually have magnets, or if that's just a rumor. Because nobody ever talks about them, and until they apparently turned on and wouldn't turn off in their last fight, and they didn't seem to be using them in this fight. So
I mean, that is what you heard about the first fight, that their magnets engaged, right?
Just engaged and glued them to the floor. I'm still not convinced those actually exist.
I'm not convinced that's what happened to them either.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Shall we move on then?
We shall.
Our next fight was Jasper versus Huge.
Yeah, I'm still not down with Huge, man.
I mean, Jasper still weighs 250 pounds, and it was still getting tossed end over end. I mean, think about Huge versus Minotaur. Minotaur can't do shit to them.
No.
They could beat Minotaur.
Well, we'll get to Minotaur in a minute.
Jasper's hammer is bad, and it should feel bad. 12 miles an hour.
So I have this as the poorest fight of the night, by the way.
It was still fun to watch Huge just utterly
Huge
destroy.
gave some big hits. I didn't think Jasper did much, really.
No, it just kind of was a paperweight that was in Huge's way.
Yeah.
And Huge needed to get to the train station.
It seemed like they tried a couple times to just stick their hammer through the wheel and just jack them up that way, which is sad. But they couldn't even get that done.
Kenny made the comment before the fight. He was like, Chris, that hammer on there looks like a lifter, but it's not. It's a hammer. And I was like, it doesn't look like a lifter. Then I saw it move, and I was like, oh, me. That does look like a lifter. I think lifters move faster than that thing. It's so slow, it literally looks like it's as though it's powered by a servo. Like, it has, 3 positions, forward, up, back. And it just kind of moves between those 3.
Well, in my mind, Jasper's out. I don't see them even coming through somehow in a Desperado tournament, really.
I think they've had a Rumble before they had this fight as well against Uppercut and Tantrum. So this is neither their debut fight or Uppercuts later in the episode. But
so they didn't come in 0-0?
No, they came in. Who won that fight? That's just, as far as I'm aware, that's just a rumor that happened before this. But
I have them coming in as 0-0. In other words, this was their first fight.
Well, sometimes if a fight is terrible, they won't air it at all. Not even as a Science Channel bonus. They just will not air it. I probably shouldn't.
That should still be considered a 0-1 fight.
I don't know. I would say for the sake of integrity, they should mention that. But maybe it just straight up is wrong, and it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Yeah. The best moment of this fight, though, was when it's so ironic that Kenny said that hammer looks like a lifter, and then Huge, with its big-ass wheels, was the one that ended up being the lifter, because it lifted up Jasper by its wheel.
Yeah, it did.
That was so weird. I had to do a double take. I had no idea what was going on. My brain was just completely freaking out. Huge is still awesome, though. I'm sure, like you said, this was not a particularly impressive fight for them, but...
No.
But like I said, Jasper still weighs...
Were these wheels made out of the same material as the first fight their wheels made? They were just had openings in them. They weren't solid.
Openings in them, so they weigh less for the same...
Right. But it was the same
you
material.
Make them bigger. Yes, same material.
Well, I don't think Huge is going to make it, man. Personally,
I hope they get to fight Bite Force, because they almost beat them last year. And they only lost because of lasting damage from Ice Wave. Their mounting brackets were still very much...
I don't see a rematch between them going all that well for Huge, but maybe it will. We'll see.
From how well it went last time, they took out Bite Force's weapon and did some very heavy damage to the top part.
I think last year's wheels were better than this year's wheels.
What makes you say that?
Because last year's wheels, while they were very flimsy, they didn't get destroyed until they got destroyed. But anyway.
They got destroyed a lot more easily than the solid wheels they use against
those solid wheels got destroyed.
But they didn't. They held up for 10 hits. The spoked wheels last year against Ice Wave, which is a far less powerful spinner than Huge, broke on the first hit. And in a much
Look,
more
I don't like their
colossal
wheels
way.
last year or this year. I'm not a fan of Huge, man. I won't say they suck.
We'll have to
I'm
wait
not
and
a
see.
fan of Huge's wheels.
We'll have to wait and see.
But, it's a unique design. I will say that. And it brings some interest to the fight.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad they're there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. And
Maybe they'll prove me wrong, man.
Before we move on, do you want to say it together? On 3.
Jasper got its ass kicked.
Yes, it did. So, anything more to say then? So, moving on to what I think is tied for the best fight of the night. Gigabyte versus Minotaur.
Well, Minotaur, man. Minotaur's still not.
Boy.
Minotaur came in less than 100%.
I don't quite believe that, actually.
Oh, no. They got troubles with that drum.
The drum did fail to spin up right at the beginning, but then immediately afterward it did spin up. And you could hear the roar.
One time you could hear the roar. Maybe 2 times you could hear the roar.
For like 20 solid seconds.
Multiple times. It was not up to speed, man.
Well, it was hitting the floor after the first 20 seconds because Gigabyte took out the spaces that keep it far enough away from the floor. A lot of people think it was struggling with hitting the floor from the get-go, but I'm not convinced.
I don't think their drum is 100%. And if you look at the interview with the team captain there at the not Freitas, he's the driver, but the other guy.
I don't know his name.
After the fight, he seemed like he has some problems. Like, we got to fix this thing.
That sounded so mean.
Well, I know, man, but he seemed like he was saying we've got some things to fix, and they clearly do, man. I mean, they're 0-2.
Yeah.
Would you have ever thought they were going to be 0-2?
No.
No, I don't think anybody would have thought they were going to be 0-2.
I still think this version
they kicked the shit out of everybody last year until they finally got beat once, but...
Yeah, by Bite Force and things, which is just
the champ.
Objectively
but,
the best
man,
machine
no, I think they're coming in... They've got problems.
They will be entering the Desperado tournament. And that's actually confirmed, by the way. They did enter. Okay. I don't know how they did, but they did enter. So, Gigabyte,
It went to the judges.
It went to the judges. It sure did. Mostly because Gigabyte lost some teeth. It lost both its teeth in the fight, and therefore was not getting big hits. And then, despite not getting big hits for the vast majority of the fight, their weapon has still somehow managed to die.
I know.
How?
Both. In the end of the fight, both teams' weapons were dead.
It was still a great driving match for those last.
I'd have scored that
seconds.
Gigabyte 6, Minotaur 1. I don't really know where I'd have given Minotaur 0.4. I don't really kind of view it that way,
Damage?
but I still scored it 6-1.
I think they deserve 1 damage point for
I would agree.
taking off Gigabyte's teeth.
Yeah.
But yeah, that 130-pound shell is that's heavy. That's very heavy. That's right up there with Son of Waiachi's weapon. And this year it actually looks thick, like to the eye. Like you just look at that thing and you're like, I can tell that is not a skin, like a shell. It's literally it very much looks like a thick wall of steel. I don't know how to describe why I feel that way just looking at that thing, but it does. It looks really, really good. And the teeth clearly did not hold up the way they needed them to. I don't quite know why that is the case. I'm sure we'll get a very good fight report from Robotic Death Company, and they may be fixing that. But yeah, Gigabyte performed extremely well in this fight, with the exception of their weapon dying.
Yeah. I mean, they went up against what we've always believed was a very formidable foe, robot. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure Minotaur is that anymore.
All they need to do is just sort out whatever problem was alien.
Well, but it's a problem when you can't sort it out.
But it was clearly a different problem in this fight, though, than it was last fight.
I don't know,
and
man.
it was definitely hitting the floor. All right,
So Zach from Team Copperhead pointed out that they actually increased their ground clearance, and yet
no. What they said was like the drum is now bigger this time. The robot itself is higher up off the ground, but the drum is bigger, so it also is still low to the ground like it was before.
So they didn't increase their ground clearance?
No, the wheels are bigger. The machine has been lifted off the floor, but the drum itself does not have a higher ground clearance because it's bigger.
Yeah. They better get it together, man.
Yeah.
Minotaur's dropping.
Minotaur is dropping, yeah. Not for a lack of competitiveness though, just because they're just having weapon problems.
Well,
man.
they were not competitive in their first fight, and they were barely competitive in this fight.
They still are a complete brick. They were never going to get knocked out by Gigabyte. Like, I knew going into this, I was like, either Gigabyte's getting knocked out or this is going to the judges. Because Minotaur is just so durable that it's impossible to knock out by almost anything.
Don't think that Freitas' driving is light years above everybody else like it used to be.
Nobody's ever called Daniel a bad driver.
I'm not saying he's a bad driver. I'm simply saying I think everybody's catching him.
Yeah.
You know? And I definitely think the... what are the brothers' names, man?
John Mladnick?
No,
are you talking about the Gigabyte team?
No, the team that beat them in the first fight.
Jeff and something Vasquez?
Vasquez, yeah. That Vasquez guy outdrove his ass.
Yeah, he sure did.
I'd say right now he's the best driver.
I'd say Paul Ventimiglia from Bite Force is the best driver. Because,
Well,
I don't think he's... Because, he and Whiplash have fought twice now. Once last season... We don't know if they fought this season. And then they fought at the Remars Live event, and Paul eviscerated Whiplash both times. Okay. Eviscerated.
Well, I have to say, driving is huge.
Driving is huge.
It's very important.
Seriously. I mean, if I tried to drive Bite Force, I'd lose to Jasper. Well...
And I am just not sure that video game playing is equal to driving these things.
That has nothing to do with anything.
Well, one guy said that. I think it was Jameson that said that last week, man. You know, that his practice comes from video gaming. And while that certainly gives you some hand-eye coordination and gives you, helps your hand speed and all that, it nothing replaces the feedback from these robots, Sometimes they're responsive, sometimes they're not, you have to kind of learn that. Anyway.
I mean, in terms of Minotaur getting its drum fixed, this is Riobots we're talking about here. I have complete faith that this team of all people can get that drum working the way it needs to.
They've had 2 fights and they haven't yet, so we'll see. I'd say if they don't get it going on the 3rd fight, they're done.
They might be done. Gigabyte, on the other hand, given that their first fight was really short, they're now 2-0, basically, because their first fight was against Kronos. A pretty unimpressive fight, actually, for Kronos, in a Science Channel bonus, so I don't think you've seen it, but it was real short. Their weapon did not die. This is their first failure they've had this season, also a new build, so I have no doubt that they can get that fixed before the next fight. And also their teeth, I'm guessing, may have been over-hardened, but they might just machine thicker ones that are much stronger. Because if you look at the teeth and on all the images, look at that. I've got a picture of it that I'm showing Scott. Look, the tooth looks kind of small and nubby. Yeah, compared to previous years' designs of teeth. I don't doubt that they can get that fixed too. I'm saying that they're a dark horse for the title, not just the top 16.
Really?
I had them pegged as one of the potential season...
I don't have them as a dark horse for the title.
Really?
No, I don't.
But its show weighs 130 pounds.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't believe that Minotaur got its ass kicked.
No, it definitely did not. This was a pretty dang close fight. I wouldn't have been mad if it was split, actually.
Well, I probably would have. Even though it wasn't a clear, one robot outclassing the other robot, I thought it was a clear winner.
Yeah, I was fully expecting Gigabyte to win, but I wouldn't have been mad if one of the judges had voted for Minotaur. If Minotaur had won, I would have been mad. You would have been hearing a very different diatribe going on.
Yes,
right now,
well, we all would have been mad, I think.
Yeah, because one robot objectively did better, and the judges still gave it to Chomp.
Yes.
I mean Minotaur. Let's not go there. I had Gigabyte for season 3. I had Gigabyte pegged as a potential season winner just because of its reputation from China as Megabyte and just its previous years competing on the live scene as Megabyte as well.
And season 3 is 2018. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then they came in, and the first fight was against Tombstone. They held up amazingly well. They got a hit on the wheel on the same hit that their shell just came right off and flew across the arena because their weapon shaft was made of some cast aluminum part that was not what it claimed to be because their seller lied to them, basically. And it was later discovered that a lot of Battlebots sellers were lying that year and giving them parts they didn't order.
Yeah.
And then they had a disappointing run last season, so I was very skeptical of them coming in, and they were kind of on my, I think Hardcore calls it the prove it list. They were on my prove it list this year, and they've proven it because they beat Minotaur.
Yeah.
Even if Minotaur wasn't fully working.
Well, no, it's saying something to beat Minotaur right now.
Yeah, but like I said, though, I'm certain that Gigabyte. I'm very nearly certain that Gigabyte did the damage that caused Minotaur's drum to stop working and start hitting the floor, because the drum seemed fine at the beginning.
Well, I agree with that. It definitely did spin up to very high speeds.
Very quickly as well.
And it does sound destructive.
Yeah, I do miss that death hum, though, going on for the whole fight. Yeah, not a ton of weapon-to-weapon hits, but man, this was a good fight.
It was.
Dang.
It was.
So...
Went to the judges. That's it.
Anything more really to say other
Nope.
than just gushing about the fight for 2 hours? All right, then in that case...
Get on the next one.
Mammoth versus Uppercut.
Well, so I was like, maybe Mammoth is going to be able to do some damage and flip people out of the ring, or out of the arena. However, Mammoth clearly is thin and awkward, and if somebody gets a shot on it, it's done. And it got its ass kicked.
Yeah, I was not expecting them to self-right.
No,
I'll tell you that.
no, I know. Well, they did do that, but yeah. It still got its ass kicked, man.
Yeah, Mammoth is a funny looking thing, and like basically, I think the whole point of it is like Ganondorf in most of the Smash games. It's like, hey, this character is really bad, but if I beat you, it's funny.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it could do well in a competition that doesn't have spinners in it. Like if it was a live stream that had lower safety regulations and there was no spinners allowed,
right.
It could do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it could.
Against like wedge bots or
right.
maybe even hammer bots, but not against spinners like
no.
Uppercut. So
that thin tube steel, tubing looks fragile.
Anything more than probably a kilojoule or so, it's just going to break, which it did. It had teeth on its on the ends of its. What am I supposed to call that?
I don't know.
It's spanking board, basically.
It's big flipper thingy. I mean, I don't know what it is, man.
It looks
like
the spanking board. I'm calling it that.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
The whole robot does kind of look like a bondage rack, if you look at it.
I'd agree with that. Yes, that's exactly what it looks like, man. Something out of a porn movie. They threw a motor on and 3 wheels and said go. I mean, it's ridiculous.
3
man.
wheels?
Oh, man. That one fell off in the first fight.
After when this fight was going on, and my brother and dad were both like, "See, exposed wheels are bad," and I was like, "It's Mammoth. What part of this thing looks competitive to you?"
Well, I was so impressed after its first fight when it did exactly what it said it was going to do.
Yeah.
Then I was like, this might be something, but man, that it's still little tubing, thin tubing that it's made out of. I don't care how strong it is. That tubing, I don't care how strong that tubing is. There's a lot to hit.
There's also leverage you got to think about. When you hit a long bar, it's going to bend more easily than if you tried to break a tiny bar, right? Yeah. And also, right before the fight, I've rewatched this moment so many times and it still confuses me. They mentioned we put a butane bottle on the front of our robot. Hopefully it'll blow up in their face. And I was like, have they effectively been allowed to go in with a bomb attached to their robot? I'm pretty sure that's illegal. All right? And also would do 0 damage to Uppercut. What, some flames? We've seen those don't work. So, did you catch that? Like,
no, I really didn't.
They did definitely say that. They said we're going in with a butane tank attached.
Mammoth said
Mammoth, that? Yeah, Mammoth. Hopefully it blows up in their face, were their exact words.
Huh.
I mean, like, wouldn't it just be like? I want to like see them planning for that. It's like, okay, hey Scott, gather around, okay, hang on, let me start some cocaine first. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Okay, we're gonna go in with a butane tank attached to our robot. All right, we're a big lumbering pile of monkey bars.
That's pretty funny.
We're a big lumbering pile of monkey bars. We're a boat with a paddleboard attached to us. Now though, we're gonna be a force to be reckoned with.
You're saying these are the meth heads of the Roboteer world?
Their favorite color is blue. That's a meta joke for you.
Well, they came in with a funky design, man. And,
man.
That helps get you on the show.
It worked about as well as we all thought it would. It's really just a meme
I
bot.
don't have much more to say about them.
Oh, I don't have.
So what do you
much to
think
say
of
about
Uppercut?
I think it's ugly.
So these two came in. Obviously, I know Mammoth was 1-0 when it came into the fight. Did Uppercut come in 0-1? Do you know?
It was part of that rumble that I mentioned earlier with Jasper in it. It did happen, but I don't know if it happened before this fight. We've already talked about that, though.
Did they get a win or a loss for it?
I have no idea. I don't know
Okay.
what happened in that rumble.
All right.
It hasn't aired yet, and I don't know if it happened already in this timeline or whatever. But I think they're an ugly machine, just kind of like a Walmart version of Monsoon in basically every way. They look very similar to Monsoon. The weapon shape is kind of funny, but the fact that they've left that bar attached to the left side of their bar, sticking way out like 2 feet, doesn't help their appearance. Not one iota. Also, how come they have forks on the top of the weapon too? Like they have the forks in the front to get underneath opponents, but then they have forks on top as well. Why?
I don't know.
They're invertible, but the reason Monsoon doesn't have those forks on the top is because when they're upside down, their bar spins forward and it hits down. You don't want opponents to be stuck between you and some forks when you hit down. Unless, of course, you're Sawblaze or Scorpius and you're going for exactly that. But these machines are clearly not.
So would you say that Mammoth and Uppercut was a worse fight than Huge and Jasper? Or would you say Huge and Jasper was a better fight?
They're about the same for me. I don't like Jasper or Uppercut particularly well, mostly because, Uppercut's just kind of ugly.
Well, you don't
Jasper
like Mammoth
is
either.
Ineffective. No, I like Mammoth, but
Okay.
it's not a competitive design at all.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, I came in extremely doubtful of it. It did exactly what it said it was going to do against an opponent that wasn't working.
Yeah, you're right.
Congratulations, you beat us because we forgot to plug in our weapon. Where's the parade? Yeah, I'm still very much doubting that design. And the poor guy, apparently Mammoth had a massive amount of electrical problems after its first fight for some reason. Like, during testing, that's why the guy at the end was so sweaty, the team captain, is because they were working for so long. They had to delay this fight because Mammoth was not working properly. They had to work so hard for so many hours straight. And then as soon as they were done, they were like, okay, yeah, put us in the arena. And then they just lost. And it was like, oh my gosh. That must have just been a nightmare.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure
so
it
I
was.
can understand why he was all sweaty at the end.
Yeah, he was sweaty, man.
He was sweaty. I was like, geez, was it that? Was it
It makes-
that?
well, it makes
difficult
you
of a
think,
fight?
maybe
and then
they-
later on,
Maybe they are on a little meth. That's a joke. I'm not saying they're actually on meth.
yeah, I very clearly said cocaine earlier,
Well,
which is of course much more likely. Anything more to say?
no.
Mammoth is funny, but it just doesn't really work. Not in this type of competition where you've got
Mammoth is funny,
all
but this
these
isn't comedy.
thousands of jewels being put into opponents. I don't have high hopes for that design overall.
No.
Maybe it could beat Jasper though. Although, I think a D2 could beat Jasper. Wanhu versus Shatter was next, and I know I've already said this in this episode, but Big Nut. Oh
Dude,
my gosh!
Shatter! Man, dude, you used your weapon!
Yeah!
If you're gonna be a hammer, do some hammering, and they did, dude.
Do shit like that, man.
Yes, use it. Hit.
Would
That's
you like
what we
to-
want to see.
Would you
I'm
like
so
to-
proud of them.
Would you like to hear the reason why they didn't do that in the last fight?
No, right now I just want to say, way to go, man. You used your... Oh, yes.
Yes!
Dude, I almost think they were listening to us. I think they were listening to us. Because, I mean, it's like they didn't use the hammer at all the first fight. And, man, they fired it off, man. Okay, now I want to hear it.
I already broke the space-time continuum in the last episode, and we've done it again. Scott did it this time. So I guess we're just time-traveling overlords now, and y'all should give us money. But the reason they didn't do it last time was because they mentioned in a pit section, the one that didn't focus on Whiplash, that they had an ESC failure for one of the motors that...
Electronic speed control?
Mm-hmm. So they used 2 weapon motors to power the hammer to get enough torque to swing it really fast. And one of the ESCs did die very early on in their first fight against Witch Doctor. And brushless motors have this weird ability that they can do this thing where they produce their maximum torque at 0 RPM. So basically they act as a brake, and that's exactly what that motor started doing. It locked up with its full force, and the other motor not only had to operate the weapon on its own, but literally had the other motor pulling back against it with almost the same force. So, yeah, it sucks. And this time, that did not happen.
Man, they used it.
They used it. 54 swings.
54.
Wanhu got its ass kicked.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it did.
I don't know how much damage that was really doing. I would love to know how much damage it was doing. But they damn sure hit him, man.
They hit him a lot. I think they landed at least half those swings.
That would be interesting to count how many blows actually landed. Certainly, if you hit the floor, that's fine, man. Go ahead, swing that hammer. But they got a lot of hits on them, man. Their timing was good.
Those Mecanum wheels, man. I thought they were a gimmick until this fight. Holy cow.
Yeah, I still don't completely understand the wheels. I won't lie.
Well, they were able to move around while keeping their front to Wanhu the entire time.
Well, that's cool, man.
Yeah, instead of having to reverse or turn around.
Yes, sideways movement is awesome.
Yeah, it makes it way easier to keep your weapon pointed at the opponent.
That's really how you fight. If humans fight, you don't run backwards and forwards. You move to the side, man.
You don't really even turn very much as a human. You don't.
Oh,
you
no,
don't turn. rotate to the left.
You
and
rotate
right.
to the.
You just kind of strafe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
if
awesome.
we know much about fighting, but I've watched some.
So the hammer may not have actually penetrated through and like killed the batteries or anything, but it did get their weapon belt very early. You can see Wanhu spit out the weapon belt, and then after 1 or 2 hits, the weapon just stops.
Yeah.
And they also got a drive chain later on. And here's something that is going to completely blow your mind. And this is one of the shots that was played in slow motion. Apparently, there was one hammer blow where the hammer went right into a pocket in Wanhu's body, and apparently it touched a battery, right? Like the side of the hammer touched a battery.
Okay.
And then the hammer itself touched the floor, the metal floor, and then the kill saw at the same time comes up, and right at the exact second that this happens, the kill saw touches Wanhu's side, and this causes the electricity from the battery to arc through the entire arena. For a split second there, the whole arena was live with Wanhu's battery power. Yeah, and there were sparks coming up out of the thing, like a shower of sparks out of the spot where the hammer landed. And the underside of Shatter also glowed orange for a second.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't have known about that.
The show really should have showed us that. That would be so cool.
Oh, yeah.
If they could show sparks flying and everything. Of course, they're probably worried about a lawsuit on that, but it would be awesome if they could show that, man.
Yeah,
I kept thinking if Shatter could get, clearly a weapon like Shatter's, if it can hit the true vitals, maybe I kept thinking the junction between right where the wheels attach could be, kind of between the wheel and the body of the robot, just get right in there and deliver some real damage, man.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to maintain that making a good hammer bot is very easy, but making a good hammer is extremely difficult. When hammers are good, it's very much the exception rather than the rule.
Well, I would agree with that.
Because the main advantage of a hammer bot is still that you can have no moving parts around at the front and sides of your machine, only on the top. You can make a completely solid wedge or just a very good design without needing to have like a big cavity for a weapon. And Shatter takes advantage of that, I think, the best it can, and that plastic armor we saw in the pit section worked marvelously.
It did.
Very, 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 very tiny amounts of damage in two places.
I like the look of their robot.
Yeah.
I really do.
It looks really nice as well.
All those geometric patterns really seem like they would work well.
So now it's time for me to explain why the hammer actually sucks and is not all that great. Not as good as it looks.
We still don't think hammers are great, man.
No. This one hits really hard, but it could hit way harder if the front of the robot didn't jump way up every time.
Well, it did jump.
That's
up
a lot of wasted energy.
I know.
Some hammer bots have either a dustpan or forks or just a nice wedge to get under the opponent and hold them there while they smash the top of it.
If they had a magnet mounted under there, and the second they fired their hammer, boom, the magnet engaged and hit.
No. What would be much better is if you just had a way to hold the opponent in front of you on top of you, so then when you brought the hammer down, you don't jump up, and if you do jump up, the opponent is getting brought into the hammer with that subtracted speed. That's what Beta took advantage of. I think Terahertz.
I'm not following you there. Say that again. What are you talking about?
What I mean is like think of Sawblaze, right? They have the fork dustpan thing. They can get on top of opponents. That's literally reverse of what they actually do. They get under opponents, is what I meant to say.
Yes. Okay.
And the opponent is on there, and if they had like a hammer
I see what
thing,
you mean.
Yeah. So there's no wasted energy there. It's 100% very nearly energy transfer. But Shatter jumps way off the floor.
I still like my idea of magnets engaging right as your hammer swings. I think it's pretty sharp, man.
Beta tried that. They pulled up the floor panels and had to withdraw from that season. This was season 1 of the reboot, by the way. They didn't appear until season 2.
They pulled up the floor panels?
Pulled up the floor panels, yeah.
Well, that's the floor's fault.
Yeah, the floor sucked even back then. Who knew? So to correct for that, what they did was they said, okay, because we can't use magnets to stop us from jumping up, what we're going to do is the long hammer arm, what we're going to do, instead of making it straight, we're going to have a bend in it like that. So then it's like this. I'm swinging my arm to demonstrate this to Scott. Y'all can't see me.
That's a funky look you got going right there.
Yeah, but this is my workout routine. But so basically, before the hammer makes contact with its own body and stops, while the machine's jumping up, they can hit the guy, right? While they're jumping into the air. Yeah. But also, they just had a very good front end as well, which allowed them to get the opponent on top of them and just swing that hammer without even moving. And they basically didn't even have to worry about that for the most part.
Well, let me say, if the Shatter guys are listening, I'm so proud of you. You first used your weapon, which apparently may have been broken the last fight, but you used it. Good job.
Yeah, I will say the exact same thing. I'm totally kidding when I say the hammer sucks. I just wanted to see the look on Scott's face when I suddenly was accusing the best hammer bot we've seen so far.
It's going to be harder for hammers to win and dominate, for sure.
Yeah. Implementation, I think, for hammer bots in particular matters the most of almost any design, really, because it's so easy for people to just go, oh, a hammer is just a motor connected to a thing, it just swings the thing. But like if you look at Shatter's intense amounts of gearing and the motors they selected, and also Beta, how they used the 2 snail cams and the amounts of gearing and stuff to get the proper torque and speed they need to swing that hammer and just deal shitloads of damage with every hit. It's crazy.
Shatter kind of had like a pointed tip too, right?
A pointed tip, yeah.
And I think that's probably the way to go. I think a traditional hammer-style hammer, where, the kind of hammer we all think of, like a small sledge, for instance, a dull hammer, in other words, I don't think that works, man. These things are too strong, too much armor. I think you need some sort of a spiky or, some sort of a spike to hit. What do you think about that?
I'd imagine there are going to be some instances where a big, blunt hammer is better, but
I don't see it, man.
I don't understand quite as much about the physics of hammers that I would.
Plus, we're already kind of down on hammers anyway, really.
Yeah,
or rather, not down on hammers.
Yeah, because Shatter convinced my brother and dad, and you finally, that hammers can be good, but of course, most of them still.
I thought you
really
were
aren't.
anti-hammer.
What? I've been trying to convince y'all that hammers can be good this whole time.
Yeah, well,
I've been on a crusade.
You've been on a pro hammer.
I've been on a pro hammer campaign, bro, and I still have very high hopes for Ragnarok. So, Tim, if you're listening, please tell me you did good, because I know you can't change it now. But Ragnarok easily has the opportunity to be just as good, if not better than Shatter.
When I think of hammer, I think of you.
Really?
Yeah. You're like a carpenter. You're like a steel worker.
What? I have the body type of a steelworker.
Yes,
with these scrawny arms.
Yes.
I wanna be.
You come from a family of steelworkers.
You sledgehammer.
You don't come from a family of singers, though.
You. Okay, so oh man, I've watched this fight the most out of any of the fights.
Oh really?
Episode. Oh yeah, like at least, like I was saying, 10 to 15 times so far. I've had a lot of time to watch it since Friday, because I was out of town on Saturday. We couldn't record that day.
Oh man.
Should we move on?
I do want to say one thing. I want to say that I really like what the Wanhu guy, the Wanhu team, is saying in their interviews. They are very positive. And, I just like what they're saying, and I want to give them a shout-out for that. Good job, even though I think the word shout-out is ridiculous and lame. But, they're doing a good job, man. I like their spirit, They're not complaining. They're not whining. They're not making excuses. They're staying positive, and good for you, man. Even though you really should be 0-2, but anyway. And you got your ass kicked.
Yeah. I just realized I was trying to move on without saying literally one word about either of us. It looks nice. I'm not really.
I think they changed up their robot, by the way, from the first fight to the second fight.
Yeah, because they now have one fork on it and the top.
Looked a little different. Their drum in the first fight, or I'm not sure if they were featured any kind of a pre-fight look or something, but it looked powerful. But man, it ain't done anything yet.
Yeah, it did get like 2 good hits in this fight, but they of course got their weapon belt chopped in half very early, so didn't really get to show it very well.
Exactly.
Also, they're against a machine they were never going to knock out, even if their weapon kept working the whole time, because Shatter's blade of armor is just so good at protecting the robot. So, shall we move on to the third good main event in a row?
We shall.
Son of Waiachi versus Whiplash.
First off, Whiplash, great driving.
Oh yeah, kept that one
great
remaining
driving.
Wedge. It kept hitting Son of Waiachi's weapon with that one remaining wedge after the other one got knocked
Son
off.
of Waiachi got some big hits in, man.
Sure did.
I thought they did great. Both teams, by the way, came in 1-0, so they're both winners, or came in as winners at least. Mm-hmm. Son of Waiachi got some big hits, man, but Whiplash's driving was great.
Just too tenacious for him.
It really, that's where I realized, driving's huge, man. It's going to be, I think driving is going to be what wins the big nut this year.
Mm-hmm. The giant nut.
Oh, it's the giant nut? It's not the big nut?
Well, I mean...
It's the big giant nut?
I mean, that simultaneous opening of the beers earlier was a big nut, and so was Shatter, but... am I brave enough to title this episode Big Nut? That's the question. Should I do that?
It's your call, man.
I don't think
you
I
are
should.
the producer.
My mom watches the show.
The executive producer.
It's funny how often I forget that Son of Waiachi has won Battlebots before. Back when it was a Walker bot, funnily enough.
When was that?
That was, what season was that? I think it was season 3. And it beat the former champion in the
final. We're in season 4, aren't we?
No. Season 3 of the original. We're in season 9 overall, but back in the Comedy Central days, there were 5
So back in the day, in other words, what year are we talking about?
We're talking about like 2001 to 2000, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, Son of Waiachi has been around a long time, but it used to be a walker bot, really more of a shuffler, as those.
And is Son of Waiachi the team that showed up with like 3 robots?
Yeah, Hydra and also Falcon were built by the same guys. Which I still don't know really the rules behind that, but Son of Waiachi, when they won when they won Battlebots, they were Walker, and they beat the current champion Biohazard in the final, which also goes to show how good Biohazard was. It was a very close fight, and Son of Waiachi had a big weight bonus at the time because it was a Walker bot, because Walker bots have a weight bonus. I think at that time it was like 50% extra weight you got to use, which is ludicrous. And nowadays, I think it's down to 35%. And we don't see a lot of Walker bots anymore,
Honestly, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, because it had legs, right, instead of wheels.
Okay.
So it was walking.
Okay.
Right? And because of that disadvantage, you're allowed to use more weight. So with 250 pounds, I think you get, with a 35% weight bonus, you get...
I haven't seen a Walker bot in 2 years, for sure.
Yeah, there was one in seasons 1 and 2 called Rex. I mentioned it earlier. It got the Out of the Arena on Witch Doctor. It was about the most goofy looking thing you can imagine. Most Walker bots suck complete dick, and the only one that's ever had really any degree of real success was Son of Waiachi, which won a season of Battlebots. And that was really because it was more of a shuffler, and they're the reason that they kind of took a look at the rules and were like,
and that was like 17 years ago.
Well, yeah, but Son of Waiachi was the reason they took a look at the rules again and said, maybe that specific type of Walker bot doesn't bring with it the disadvantages that Walker bots normally use. So we should give them less of a weight bonus in future seasons. So, of course, Son of Waiachi now has wheels and weighs, 250 pounds like the other bots. And it's still very good. 8 motors power its weapon.
I wouldn't say Whiplash kicked its ass.
No.
Even though Whiplash KO'd it.
Yeah.
Did Son of Wachi just fail? Is that what happened? I can't quite remember.
They
I
were
guess
smoking.
They did.
They were smoking. Too many
There's
spin-ups.
Definitely some smoke.
Yeah, too many spin-ups. Very heavy weapon. Even though it has 8 motors, it still takes tons and tons of power to spin it up. Absolutely. It has a really fast spin-up time of 4 seconds.
It really does.
Yeah.
Man, when it's spinning, you can't see that bad boy.
No, you can't.
I mean, it's...
Apparently it spins at 190 miles an hour, which is 40 miles an hour up from last season. I asked them why they upped it on Facebook, and they said, we didn't, not on purpose. We don't know why it's so much faster. And I'm betting it's just because everything is new. You know, there's cleaner bearings, cleaner shafts, all that jazz, less friction, whatever. Regardless. New batteries, yeah. Regardless, 190 mile an hour top speed. Still seems to get really good engagement. Then
I can't believe they said we have no idea how come.
Yeah, they said yeah. I don't know why it spins faster, but it just does. We didn't change the gearing or anything about the machine. We just remade parts of it, and now it's faster.
Well, maybe they improved their manufacturing. You know, I mean,
maybe
machining gets better.
You know, it's funny. Speaking of manufacturing, Son of Wachi does make a lot of the parts for other competitors in this competition, and I just think it's like a really funny thing to imagine that every time they're fighting a guy that they made parts for, they have like a built-in kill switch in the other robot, and then they're just like they just press a secret button, and then the other robot just turns off.
I work for a corporation that makes stuff for our competitors as well. You know, and I mean, you know, that's just how it goes, man. Your job is to make shit. And other people need you to make shit, so you make their shit too. You know, it's just how it is, man.
Yeah. Like for example, I think Gigabyte Shell is made by the Wachi team. Yeah. So it's funny. They have a full body spinner. They make the entire weapon for another full body spinner.
I'm gonna say, by the way, that Son of Wachi is from Minnesota, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, they're from up north. They're beer drinkers.
They what?
They're beer drinkers.
Yeah.
I'm 100% certain they're beer drinkers.
Yeah, they're Hoosiers. Actually, wait, no, that's Indiana. That's Indiana.
No, they're not Hoosiers. They're cheese eaters.
Sorry, Jamie Heineman.
I think they're cheese eaters.
Cheese eaters, right?
Wisconsin, dairy, the land of dairy.
Wait, I thought you said Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Is there really a difference?
State. I mean, the same state.
It's cold and they drink a lot. That's what
cold,
I know.
It's cold. They're right next to the Great Lakes.
Yeah, there's no difference between Minnesota and Wisconsin. Except for one team has the Packers and another team has the Vikings. I mean, really, other than that, there's no difference.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I'll tell you what. Either Son of Wachi doesn't hit as hard as Tombstone, or Whiplash is just a lot tougher this year because Whiplash did not get completely torn apart like Tombstone did to them last year.
Well, I can't remember that fight, but I can tell you what Whiplash did was stay on them.
Oh, yeah, just got on them and never left them alone.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, never got a hit with their flywheel, though.
Right.
Never got their flywheel hit by Son of Wachi's weapon either, which I think is fortunate, but whatever. They still flipped them over without using that vertical spinner. And yeah, that's really the only thing wrong with Son of Wachi is that it can't self-right. That, and I looked on their website, and the robot's top speed is 8 miles an hour, which is very slow, and not at all good for getting away from an opponent that will box rush you.
Yeah.
Of course, Whiplash tried that, and then the dang floor stopped him. But that, of course...
Yeah, Whiplash did get hung up by the floor.
The funniest part of this fight was when Son of Wachi got stuck on its own minibot and then proceeded to completely annihilate it.
Oh, dude, they did. They knocked the shit out of their little robot.
I told you not to get near me when I'm drinking, damn it!
Those little robots are a joke, man.
It's weird to
First
think
off,
that...
their little robot nearly wedged them one time.
Yeah,
of them.
that happened
and then
in
they hit that little
well.
robot and it just disappeared. I don't know where
it just
went.
disappeared. We just forgot about it. It vanished from the plane of existence and was only found much later.
Just gone.
Yeah, just gone. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was not due to... Got it. I just killed a gnat.
Yeah, we've had some bugs.
Yeah.
The studio, you know, we need to talk to the production company because the studio, it needs some work.
Yeah, we need to call the exterminator in here with our massive budget. High budget production, remember. But what was I just talking about? The minibot. That was not due to bad driving, though. Whiplash actually pushed the minibot into them. They bounced off of Whiplash's front and slid across the floor and got it.
I think it's time to get rid of the mini-bots.
I think it's a really weird thing to think about that Son of Waiachi, of all people, with a weapon that big and heavy and that destructive, has a mini-bot.
Man, when I first started watching this show, which was, I guess, last year, maybe I saw a few before that, I thought the mini-bots was just the greatest thing ever. And then I realized they don't do shit, so,
unless
just drop them.
Unless they're on Nuts 2's team, in which case they're the heroes of every fight.
Have they actually done something?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the Carbide was running away from a mini-bot in one of those fights. Yeah, it's just the reigning champion, most feared machine ever built, Carbide.
It reminds me of, like, a coyote running from a rabbit.
Yeah. Probably just because the coyote's lost all its teeth, though. That's like
it's a really pissed off rabbit.
But, Whiplash flips him over, kind of does like a lift, balances Son of Waiachi, and then slaps him back down, gets him on their back. Son of Waiachi can't self-right. That's the end of the fight.
End of the fight.
Really good main event once again.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah. Not quite the best fight of the episode, because that would still go to a tie between Wanhu Shatter and Gigabyte Minotaur. But, man, what a great episode of fights all around.
It was.
Yeah.
Good July 4th weekend night of fighting.
Yep.
Baby.
Yep.
Everybody likes some action, man. Everybody likes some action.
Mm-hmm. Everybody likes some action. We like some action.
Yeah, we do.
They like some action. Britain is okay with action.
Yeah.
Speaking of Britain, we're going to get Monsoon again. Finally, next episode. I've seen the fight card. Finally, Bronco is also coming out. So, I guess that will go ahead and conclude this episode of the Bedrock Engineers.
I'd like to thank our fans and all our listeners. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. We really couldn't do it without you. Actually, we could, but it's much funner with you.
Yeah, we could just be talking to ourselves.
Exactly.
I could talk to
we
a
do
white
that all
wall.
the time. But
I could talk to a white wall.
Anyway, and thank you for having me, Ben.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you, Scott. Thank you for coming.
Good episode.
Yeah, thank you,
And,
Budweiser. This is not sponsored, but thank you, Budweiser, for providing the alcohol.
I think we might want to try to see if Budweiser will sponsor us.
You think that would work?
Oh yeah.
I actually considered reaching out to
maybe we could get
SolidWorks and
maybe we could get like HEB to sponsor us too and give us food.
Well, I ripped on HEB earlier for their milk.
Well, you're gonna have to cut that out.
Sorry, but
their beer is very good.
Yeah. So with that, I guess
and their steaks are delicious.
Yeah, their steaks are good.
Anyway, well, thanks a lot, Ben, for having me.
Yeah.
Have a good night,
listeners. Good night, everybody.
Bye bye.